Oh, what a way to start the live stream already.
Yes, hey,
Hope doesn't drop on me and I drop dead. Yeah, it's hard here. Let me let's see. There we go. And we just wait for people to pop on. Hey, everyone. Okay, so have we shared it to everywhere we can think of? Just giving time until we open. Here's Christy.
Hi,
Hey there.
Christy. Oh, that's really cool. How it pops up like that. That's awesome.
Yep.
So we should see that in the live comments. Yep.
Yeah, can see it in the regular comments on the side there.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And Jeremy's here.
Yep. It was just there. So I believe we should probably get going since we were coming in a little bit late, but hey.
Well, we've realized that like all of our members are 5 to 7 minutes late to everything. So they take after me.
Hi, Amy.
Well, in a way, I guess you could say Jason's the similar. Hey, Amy. Because he's just sometimes late with his podcast too, remember?
Better late than never.
Yeah, can't wait for the next Unstoppable, though. Still waiting for him to reveal where it is. You know? So, anyway, you ready to get started?
Yep.
Yep.
Gonna start in 3, 2, 1. And here we go. Right.
Yay.
Okay. Weird machine noise. Oh my, if we're in a Stephen King film. Anyway.
This is going to be great.
This is going to be great already. So, hello, everyone. Sorry for the sound machine noise. Oh, boy, I'm giggly already. But, hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Thru Autistic Eyes. And I am your host, Christopher D. Casson. And I'm an autistic who decided he wants to rediscover the world and share the journey along with you. And for this month, for the very final episode for the month of growth, I have here Lee Watson and Miranda Morley, both who are from both community leaders of GreenCow PACE. And also, on top of that, Miranda is also a resume writer, communication strategist at Morley Career Solutions. So I wanted to thank you two for joining.
Oh, thanks so much for having us. It's great to be here. And I'm thrilled.
This is awesome. Thanks, Chris. You're the best.
Thank you. And of course, Christy saying, "Bahaha, I was actually on time because I was afraid I forget."
Gold star to Christy. Remind me to mail that one to you.
Oh, man. So anyway, let's get going here. So I guess the first question I've been asking everyone since this whole pandemic thing is starting is, how have you been handling this so far? Because I've learned that you've been going a bit more online in recent months, actually, which was good timing considering what's happening as of this episode.
Yeah, that's right. We've been spending a lot more time online. And one of the good things about that is that the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. And so we really needed to do that. Yeah, I know I did anyway. So I'm happy to be doing this again today. It's just great to be here with people. And one of the things that we learned is that even though we can't be together and right next to each other and all that, being here like the Brady Bunch helps. It's good. It's, you know, we see each other, we can talk to each other and interact and learn from each other, and it's a good thing. So I'm super thankful for all of that.
Yeah, I think that one of the cool things is that we had an experience of putting all of our stuff online a few months before the pandemic started, and then we were able to help some people with our own experiences who may not have thought that they could do what they were doing IRL online. And so that was really awesome experience. And then I've also just found, you know, it's definitely been challenging with having everything sort of upended within, you know, a couple of weeks. But there has been some good stuff that we've discovered that we'll continue to do after this is over. I think that goes both for GreenCow and for me personally. There's just a lot of stuff that I was doing that maybe I don't necessarily need to do. And this kind of showed me that. So there's good in everything.
Yep. There's always a bright spot. And since we're on the subject of GreenCow PACE, tell us more about it. What got the idea started, and how has it changed over the years since it first launched?
That's a great question. Thank you, Christopher. GreenCow started as a co-working space in Hammond, Indiana. And it was a great space. We had about 9,000 square feet. And in October of last year, we had to move. Well, in hindsight, it was a blessing because our decision at the time was to take everything online. So GreenCow has been around for years now, but it was a co-working space, and now is an online community where people can share and meet each other virtually. We're going to do some pop-ups and things like that, and we have done a little bit of that. But yes, it's an online community to help people who want to serve and succeed. And we have a wonderful group of people who are involved now. I think we're a little over 400 people. Is that right?
About four. I think the last time we looked, it was 433 in our serving and succeeding group. Yeah.
Right.
And another evolution, I think, of what we've been doing is we started out kind of focusing just on business. And then we started to branch out. So now our real focus is being the help for helpers, and what our programming and our support targets is people that want to help others. And we do a lot of brainstorming with ideas. And then just we're also a place where people can, you know, a lot of times helpers have the tendency to get burnt out. And so we're a place where we can,
I've been burnt out through that.
Yes. So you know what I'm talking about. So we're a place where we can support each other, and encouragement and accountability, I think, is a huge part of what we do. Just letting people know to keep pushing forward with their goals. And, you know, if they do that, they'll do something good.
And I have a focus.
And like Jeremy says, I miss hugs, but the Brady Bunch cracks me up.
So one of the things that I like to do is to promote the virtues. And I'm associated with the Virtues Project International. And that's been a real blessing for me, and I hope for other people. You know, we all know virtues are good. It's good to be kind and loving and caring and all those things. And so I want to help remind people about that and find peace and joy. And you know, I like
all that good stuff.
Yeah. It's a lot of what we do is focused around. There's some practical training, you know, that we do in our membership group, where we talk about things like social media and interviewing and, you know, communication and all kinds of things like that. But a lot of what we do is trying to situate everything we do in this idea of, you know, peace and kindness and helpfulness. And so I think it's a good way to look at things, and it really does help you to see things a little bit differently.
Yeah, and there's a reason I'm going into this, but before we get into that, I've looked upon your website actually, and you said something about mission-driven entrepreneur. So how would you classify mission-driven entrepreneur? And for people that want to be able to serve their community, what in your opinion is the first thing they should keep in mind when starting a project towards that goal or that outcome?
Well, that's a great question. And, I remember first meeting you was that a couple of years ago, perhaps.
Yeah.
And it was pretty clear at that time that you had a mission and you were just starting on that journey.
Yeah,
and
it's still a start.
What's that?
It's still a start, but
it's still a start. Well, that's fine. I bought your first calendar that day.
Yeah. Really appreciative of that.
Anyway, just like you and just like this, here at GreenCow, everybody starts at some place with a dream or a vision of something, and it eventually turns into a mission that they can actually follow and set goals about. And we want to promote all of that, all the different pieces of it. And we don't want necessarily to minimize the struggle, because we kind of need the struggle. I know every entrepreneur that I have met has had their at least their fair share of struggles. And
so basically, yeah, it stinks, but you need the fertilizer in order to grow.
Yeah, kind of need to. So we just want to be here to help with the process. We want to help people move along and serve effectively.
And there's lots of ways in which you can serve. I think that if you are a person that wants to serve, you'll find that out. You'll figure it out where that is. And there are many ways in which that can happen. And sometimes it's not something that seems, right away, it doesn't seem very obvious, but you connect the dots. And we have some people in our group who are on that journey right now. And that's an exciting thing to see. I was there, and I think in some ways we're all there, but I was there for a very long time where I had many different things that I did. And my ultimate goal was just to help people, but it was extremely stressful about how to combine all these things. And
I've been there.
Yeah, right. But eventually you figure that out and cut away the things that aren't as important and focus on the things that are. And so we have a lot of people who are on that journey, and our job really isn't to tell them what it is that they should be doing, but sometimes to ask the questions that get them thinking.
So, for example, what would be one of the questions you would propose to them?
Well, a lot of times it's asking about who they want to impact, who they want to help, and what those people need, and what message they have to share with the world, and if the things that they're doing are aligned with that message, and what impact it is that they really want to have. And then we kind of look back at the things they're doing and seeing if that's lined up, or where your people are. You want to talk to these types of people. You have this kind of message. Where are the people that need to hear that? And that can sometimes, inform what your platform is and what kind of voice you use and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Some people just aren't sure what gifts and talents they might have. It was clear right away when I met you, Christopher, that you had a gift for photography. And that's awesome. A lot of people struggle to find that. We want to help with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and with this whole pandemic thing, of course, a lot of people got creative on how to help their community through these struggles. And despite all the setbacks, there's also a lot of opportunities. So have the both of you seen anything that really intrigued you during this whole thing?
I think there's been a lot.
Go ahead. I have something after you.
Okay, sure. You want to go first?
No?
I was going to say, I tell this story a lot, but one of our members had a writing group that he was going to postpone until after the pandemic was over, and then decided to host some of the meetings online, which allowed people to continue to participate in that. And I think that that's really important for those people who that's their outlet, to continue to do those things. And what was cool about that too is he saw some people coming in that probably would not have found that group if it had stayed a, in-person group. And I see that a lot actually across different groups and organizations. Some people in Toastmasters have been visiting Toastmasters in Spain and Italy. And we've had some people come into our group from other countries and other states that probably wouldn't have found us. But since everything has to be online, we're doing networking and communication a little bit differently. And it's allowed us to make some cool connections.
Your question, Christopher, was something about something that we've noticed that caught our attention. I don't remember exactly the word you used, but one thing that I've seen, and I wish I could help more with this, but the people who are typically more introverted are not suffering as much as the people who see themselves typically as an extrovert, in part because they can't get out among the crowds and be with a big group of people and things like that. So it's those extroverts or people who see themselves as mainly in that arena who really need some care right now. And the best way we can do it is with our Brady Bunch show. It's effective.
Yeah, for what we're using here for the video cast, I guess you could call it, it only allows up to 6 people at once to show up on the screen. We were kind of discussing more about what we use here called StreamYard for the video cast. So, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad you mentioned that because, there are a lot of tools out there to help people connect in real time like this. And we're trying all the time to find the most effective ones for us because we'll have 15 or more people on at a time.
Another thing that I saw that was cool coming out of this too, Chris, was actually your broadcast that you were doing, the art.
The autism healing live stream, shameless plug-in.
Yes. But I just liked that a lot. I know I wasn't able to tune in as much as I would have liked. 5 o'clock is usually my kids are starving time. But
adjusting the time on that, I was thinking of trying to make it more uniform with just having it at 7.
Okay. But what I liked about it is it's very kind of a calming and, and you share your talent with us and just people who are like you getting on it and showing a glimpse of their daily lives. And it's really interesting and it's very helpful to people.
Yeah, we kind of get that kind of sense with, typically with YouTubers with their own, and now people are just discovering that for themselves, of trying to adapt through all this, of being stuck with online, especially with those that are extroverts that are used to being surrounded and being the center of the party, but now they just have a computer screen
People like me, you mean? It's like Starbucks was closed for a really long time. Now
Yeah.
their drive-thrus are open, but I was like, I just want to sit in a coffee shop.
Oh, we have so much in common there.
Right? I know
Only
you're
instead of
a
Starbucks,
coffee
it's
shop person.
yeah, but for me, it's more local since I also noticed when Starbucks started opening up to at least drive-throughs, it was just cars snaking all the way around like almost twice, just trying to get a coffee.
Well, if I were closer to Fluid, I would go to that one too. So you definitely have a good choice in coffee places.
Yeah, a couple of choices there actually. It's nice. It's definitely nice, and being able to support locals such as those that really want to support their community through their business as well.
And there are a lot of those people, and some of them are not sure how to do that.
Yeah.
They're not used to it. And so we'd love to support as many of those as we possibly can. Yeah. They have good intentions and they have good skills, and they're a little bit lost right now because of the changes.
Yeah.
So many changes.
Yeah, definitely. And for those who decide they really want to step it up and be the leader of the community per se, I was curious on what your thoughts on the top 3 things that you believe it would take at this moment to become that leader in the community in their own right. With moving on,
we might not have the same 3 answers, so we'll get 6 of them here.
I might change mine twice. So what is that? 9.
Well, if we end up with double, it just means more confirmation that this is the right thing to do.
There you go.
There you go.
Go ahead, Miranda. You can start.
Let's see. Well, I think first of all, just I think everybody is handling this differently. First of all, let me say. So, if there's a lot of people that are saying things like, this is your time, you have to make the most of it, and to step up and do something. And I'm with all of that, but I also understand that there are people that possibly can't do that right now for whatever reason that is. So I think that whatever you're doing to try to be positive in your life and the life in those around you, that's the number one thing. You don't necessarily have to go out and reinvent the wheel. You don't, have to do something that's in front of everybody. It just, if you are doing what you need to do for you and your family, I think that's important. I don't, I think some of this sometimes it is a little, it can make people nervous or feel like they're not doing enough. And that's not something that, is good. So I would say just like, whatever you're doing to be positive in your life and your family's life, that would be the first thing that I would think of. And then maybe just seeing a need. And if you see a need and you're able to fill that, then do. And if you see a need and you're not able to fill it, but you know someone that can, that's just as important. So I think a lot of times leaders aren't necessarily the ones that are solving the problems, but they are connecting people with other people.
Good point.
And so maybe that's my number 2. And as number 3 would be to just continue building the relationships. So when we're in this kind of environment, for those of us that are more like actually being around real people like me, it can be, there's a temptation, or there's it's easy to not build relationships as authentically, I think. When you have a lot of conversations through Facebook Messenger, or you're doing conversations through Zoom, it can be a little bit less natural, especially for those of us who are kind of like energy people. So you like read people's energy and you kind of react off of that and stuff. And I know that for me, like as a speaker and as a communicator, I'm like that. So it is a little harder. But I think
much different than from being in person to just going through the screen, not as much. So
Yeah, it's a little bit harder to kind of fall into that groove where I'm really comfortable meeting people in person, and I'm getting better online, but it's just not as, it's a little harder. It's a little bit less natural, and so I think it's just important to continue to build the authentic relationship. Realize that there's an actual person there. That's a little easier to do when you're in an environment like this. But if you're sending messages and texts and things like that, it can be really easy to just kind of throw a person into a category. Like for those of us who are in business, this is a lead or this is a potential client. And so you're just throwing things, at them. We don't want to do that. We want to maintain, building real relationships.
yeah, so don't think of them as a money purse to snatch into. Just think of them as a person that you could help.
Or just right. And remember that behind every, Facebook picture, behind every phone number, or whatever you're interacting with, there's an actual person there. And I think that'll change some of how you communicate. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing anything wrong the first time, but just think about asking, like, how are you doing today and stuff like that. Try to build the relationship. All right. I got 3.
I think that's a great answer, and I'm pretty much in alignment with all of that. From my perspective, leaders have to develop other leaders. They have to take their followers and help them along to become leaders in their own right. And so one of the things that I think is really important is to help develop people right now. Yeah. And again, with the focus on virtues, caring and being authentic. You mentioned that, Miranda. These things are really important. It's more important to develop that relationship, and you mentioned that too, than it is to suck $1 out of somebody. That's not leadership. Leadership has everything to do with developing people.
Yeah, it's not leadership. That's being a leech, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Less leeches, more leadership.
I'm getting a t-shirt with that printed on it.
Go ahead. I give you the idea. Go ahead.
Yeah, you can copyright it if you want, but I want the t-shirt.
Well, I kind of got other things going, so maybe it's something like a new GreenCow project. I don't know.
Come buy our t-shirt.
Well, at the same time, as much as we want to develop leaders, and we should develop leaders, there are many people right now who are suffering so profoundly with this situation, whether it's emotional or physical or financial, whatever it is. There are so many people who are so stuck right now that baby steps is required. It's not like we can put on a big event and get everybody all excited about being a leader. It's probably not going to happen that way. Of course, I'll never be the person on stage dancing around and telling you to rub the shoulders of the person in front of you and wave up. That's not me. But it's really
kind of more reserved.
I'm a little bit more reserved.
Yeah.
Although it's going to be really funny someday when I do that.
Well, maybe you could join the next Unstoppable event whenever and wherever that is.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, wait a minute. Can that be the next thing we do?
Yeah, why not? They already have tickets being up for pre-sale. So.
Yeah.
I think that's there are a lot of people who are really struggling, and and I have too. There have been some moments of this that have been really hard for me, and it's been there's things with kids and all of that has been challenging, and a big thing that I've learned is just to reach out for help, because there are people out there who want to help, and a lot of people are hesitant about doing that. And, I always, I want to help people, and I don't know what to do if nobody tells me. And I found that experience to be the same when I reach out and say, look, I'm struggling with this. And I just posted something about that with the school. So like being an e-learning parent and trying to take care of a house and trying to work, that was really challenging. My kids just finished school, so that was amazing. And I had, 5 or 6 people really step up to help. The kids' teacher would FaceTime them to help. And, we had some tutors and things like that come in. And so that was super helpful. And I think there are those people out there. So if you are one of those people that's really struggling, you can find people if you say something.
It can be really tough to ask for help, but so gratifying when you do. Because there are people, like you said, like you, who are always willing to step up and help somebody. If you have the tools and the talent, you're going to help. And there's so many people out there who feel the same way.
Which is why being part of a community is really important. That's why we started doing what we're doing, because it is a little easier to ask when you feel like you're comfortable when you're in a community. And so, if you feel like you're not part of one, maybe that's a time to get involved.
Yeah, and to go back a little bit on that, you mentioned people hesitate. So why do you think they hesitate?
I think there are a number of reasons. And I think at the core of some of them is pride. People were doing pretty well before, and now all of a sudden, my job is gone. My health is starting to crack, and my relationships are stressed, and all of these things. And so I think that at the root of some of these things is pride, and we need to just say, hey, you know what? I'm not. Nobody's perfect. We all have challenges, and I think when we get to the point where we can say, gosh, it'd be great if somebody would help me with this, then the world opens up for us.
Yeah, I think too that that's a big one. I definitely would agree with that. I know that I've experienced that myself. There were some times that I was really, really in need of help, and I did not ask because I didn't want people to see me a certain way. So
we all have done that.
Yeah. But also, I think that there's a real, concern that people have been taken advantage of in the past, and afraid to be taken advantage of again. And I think that that's another reason why it's extremely important for those of us who are helpers to be genuine and authentic. So, if you really can't help in a situation, that's okay too. That's where you say, I'm probably not your best person, but let's talk to so-and-so or yeah.
Yeah, that's the power of networking that we all need. And we can do that right now. We've expanded our networks just during this time without any meetings in person. And that way, when that thing comes up that we can't address, maybe we can point them in a good direction. And I think we've been doing that, and I hope to be able to do it more.
Yeah. So kind of going off of that, there's people that have the passion and want to support others, but again, they are lacking in support for themselves, such as, just recently losing their job. Money's becoming much more sparse because for various reasons, and maybe that business loan didn't go through with the whole SBA thing and that. So that comes the question of, okay, what do I need to keep in mind when trying to overcome such obstacles so that I can help the community that can really use that help, and yet I feel so limited,
Yeah, I bet there are a lot of people in that situation that just really feel stuck, and they can't breathe. They need help before they can help others. And I don't think there are any great solutions to that other than building up a base of friends who can just be there to support you. And it doesn't sometimes take much. Maybe it's just a dinner, or maybe it's help with a bill, or there's so many things that it could be.
Mm.
And when that happens, and when you start building up that core group and expanding that to a larger community, I think there's just a lot of help out there that's available from unexpected places. I think it happens. I think I've seen that in the little time that we've been at this strangeness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that I always, when I talk to people as a career coach, and I talk about building your network before you need it, which is important, but I think, that sort of applies everywhere. And one of my kids the other day asked me, why is there always somebody that seems to come to our rescue when we need something? A friend of hers gave one of my kids a bed. They needed a bed and she had an extra one, and she's like, how come this kind of weird stuff always seems to happen? And I said, I think it's because we try really hard to help a lot of people, and then when we need something, there's usually somebody available to help us back. And so I really
karma in there, right?
Yeah.
I was just about to say that. Karma.
There you go. You can call it a lot of things.
Karma, synchronicity, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
But I think for those, somebody that's in a situation like you're talking about, we've talked about reaching out for help. But I think another thing too is to just realize that it's okay to focus on you at the moment and letting people know that, I have some really important challenges that I need to focus on. I think it's also really important not to just, say, well, that's it, I'm done. I'm stuck. There's nothing else out there. There's a lot of opportunity. I've encountered that with a lot of people in my career coaching. Some people that are just like, well, I guess I'm done. I guess I'm not going to be able to do this. I said, that's not really accurate. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening right now, and it might not be the same way that you were thinking you could do it before. But there are ways to do it. And, it's just coming up with that strategy. So I think that's a big thing too, is just not to give up and think you might just need to rethink how, but, not the end result.
Yeah. And sometimes even just speaking out just means that it reveals more of the problem that's occurring with everyone else. And then someone else can come up with a solution that actually ends up helping you. And then you could just kind of team up eventually. That's another thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think, Chris, what you're doing by doing these interviews is part of that solution that we're talking about, in giving the people the opportunity to just listen and then maybe to participate a little bit more, and maybe at some point be interviewed by you so people can understand more about what it is that they can do and want to do. So, yeah, the solution has a lot to do with communicating with each other, and you're providing the platform for that, which is awesome.
Which is also thanks to other people that decided to create this platform in the first place.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Just clearing my throat here. It's awfully hot in here. I'm just like, I need to put this fan closer, but I don't want it to get too close.
Yeah, you might lose some locks there.
Right? Careful.
Yeah. Yeah, my luscious locks being torn away, and then I end up being self-scalped.
That's a lot more damaging than a piece of paper falling on me. So just.
Yeah. And then, of course,
Speaking
going
of, I haven't had a haircut now for, 5 or 6 years, it seems like. And, I'm a long way behind you. But, yeah, boy, it just takes so much effort.
I got a haircut.
Eventually you'll get the Fabio look.
Put it up. And then while you're at it, go get some of that temporary hair color. I think blue would be nice. And
going for a Cindy Lou Who look.
Not a bad idea.
Why not? Fashion changes all the time.
And then he can get up and jump around and massage the shoulders of the person in front of you.
Yeah, sounds great.
Oh man, I'm losing my train of thought.
Chris has a visual there.
I'm a visual person, so
this is really enlightening.
oh my. But anyway, going on from that odd thing that we shall not speak of again. Of course, there'll be people who want to serve their community, but of course, the reality of facing the goal from needing to pay the bills now is well on top of that. So how does one keep focus on that goal and outcome and not suddenly slip into that focus of, oh, I need more money, and always continue to focus on serving? Because when something sudden like this happens, it could be very easily to get lost in that panic, you know?
Absolutely. It can be easy to get lost in that panic. And so many people are lost in that panic. And there's no easy solution in the very short term.
Yeah.
If you need $100 this week and you don't have it, you're going to be focusing on the urgency of finding that $100. Mm-hmm. What's important, however, is that, and you're going to probably figure out how to get it. And you may choose to engage with a community and find that there are people who would love to help you out. I've seen, this reminds me of Paul Henry's. Some of you are aware of Paul Henry's art gallery, and Paul Henry's needs a new roof really badly. And they're not getting any income from the jam nights or anything like that. And one of the patrons, one of the artists, Carol, decided to start a GoFundMe, which has raised over $5,000 so far. These things happen. It's not terribly unusual. There are lots of people out there with a lot of money right now. And so don't think that, maybe the people that you're surrounded by seem to be really struggling with money. That's not the case everywhere. And so getting those people attached to the people who have money and who would be happy to pay them for the things that they can do, they're out there. You just have to find them. They're not going to find you just by accident, probably. So
I think what's really important about that too is that it was Carol that started the GoFundMe, but there were also a lot of people involved in that stepped up to really drive the awareness there. So Carol not only started a GoFundMe, but she created a coloring book, which she got submissions from tons of other artists for. Like she got a lot of other artists to contribute to it. There was like Jim Kotaki did a film thing involved in that. There have been a number of artists doing live streamed poetry and music.
Yeah.
And
Patrick has been doing the virtual jam nights.
And he put
people
together.
Are just stepping up.
Yeah, and so that was a real community effort too. You saw like one or two people start that, and then a lot of people jumped on board and got involved. So I think that is a really great example. I would say in terms of like, balancing the need for serving and money. So I've had a lot of experience with money challenges just from like, I used to think money was evil. And so that caused a lot of trouble with me because I never had any. But things have been much different for me lately, which is good because I changed my attitude on that. So that was helpful. But also, I think that kind of comes down to, I've also worked with someone who helped me to balance my priorities. Because that wasn't a natural strength of mine either. Like you, Chris, I'm very creative. So I like to write and I have ideas and I like to put things together. But when it comes down to like planning and organizing, that's not a natural strength of mine. So I started working with someone who would help me to schedule and balance priorities, which allowed me to continue to do what I'm doing in terms of service while also being able to support my family. So really that about, and what I think is really important about that is not just the fact that balancing priorities is important, because I do think that is important, but also you don't always know what the real challenge is. Sometimes when you're experiencing a problem, sometimes you're too close to it. So getting close to someone that is, or talking with someone that you're close to, whether you have a mentor or a friend or someone else who can kind of help you step back and say, okay, what is the real issue here? Like because I think sometimes too, when we start to experience that, especially when it's something like finances, when you're facing like not being able to pay for groceries or your rent or something like that, or when it's a health crisis and it seems like extremely challenging and, very dark, it's very easy to go down the path of like, well, this is wrong, and then that's going to happen, and this is bad, and this is also terrible. And so it's very difficult to necessarily pinpoint what the actual problem is. And when you can talk with someone who you're close to, and they can help you do that, or at least help you to think about it differently, and then maybe connect you with the right people, that's huge. So anyone who's experiencing that kind of like trauma and depression or frustration right now, it's definitely worth it. Almost every single one of my problems that I thought was huge ended up being not as big as I thought. Like, not they weren't there, but once I actually realized what the real problem was, there was a solution, and it was just, here's the steps. It's not going to be super easy, but it's not like it's hidden.
So basically like a teeny tiny little troll that has a really, really loud squeaky voice that you think is a lion's roar.
There you go.
There you go.
I think that your point about finding a mentor who can help you through some of this stuff is super important. I think everyone should have one or more mentors who you can just bounce something off of.
Yeah.
And I've seen in your life, Miranda, what I think it's Monique who you were working with has just made a tremendous difference for you. And that's awesome. And it's just a matter of talking with that person and learning something maybe that you didn't have before. Right.
But I think a big part of that too is that you have to be willing to do the work. So if you don't want to be that person that's just always, telling people your problems.
Yeah, that's not a mentor-mentee relationship. Yeah. That's a whiner.
Yeah, right? I say that to my kids a lot. Like, do you want an actual solution to this? Because if you don't want an actual solution, I can't help you. But I think that, it is, it's not necessarily a mentor. It could just be a really close family member or friend. But when we talked about reaching out for help, sometimes you don't necessarily even know what that help is. You just know that there's a problem. And sometimes by talking to somebody, you can figure that out. And if you're not ready to talk to somebody, sometimes writing does it for me. I know other people,
Art.
just, you do what?
Art.
Yeah. Art.
Fitness.
Yeah, but doing something, maybe to get you to the point where you can talk to somebody about it.
Journaling helps too for a lot of people. For Chris, it may be art, and for you, it's a discussion with somebody like Monique. For me, journaling helps. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, when we start developing our own little communities that help out the local area, there's always going to be some sort of issue like that with some people that want to complain about something, such as, for example, I'm probably going to trigger some people, but you must wear a mask or you don't really care and all this other nag stuff. And sometimes it fine, you want to respect them, but at the same time, it also sometimes feels like you're trying to help out the community, but sometimes it just feels like there's like two polar opposites that are in the extremes trying to pull at you. And what would you do in a situation like that?
I just don't engage in those situations. I think that's actually really, a lot of people, they see something and they can't just keep scrolling. I would challenge those people, just try not to for a week and see how you feel.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who are not aware that they're in such a negative vibration that it is just hurting everybody around them. They're not aware of it. And so helping them somehow to understand the importance of things like self-talk and their internal position on how it is that they react to situations or respond. Those are huge things, and it's unfortunately true that people can very quickly go down the rabbit hole of depression without seeing all the wonderful things that are around them and the wonderful people who are there to help them. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to catch them and to say, hey, I'm here to help. I want to help you. And one of the first things that I need to do is help you understand that telling yourself that the world is horrible and everything's bad is not a good thing to be telling yourself, because your subconscious is always listening. It's always listening. And if you feed it negative stuff, negative things will happen. If you feed it positive stuff, positive things will happen. A lot of people see that as kind of airy-fairy, but it's real and it's true. And it's easy to prove that just by changing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, too, I think you don't ever go wrong with kindness. You don't ever go wrong with trying to see the good in people. Mm-hmm. So rather than getting involved in a lot of these, I have this opinion, I have that opinion, my general standpoint is to try to see everyone's point of view.
I think that's really healthy. I tend to be somewhat opinionated.
Yes, you do, especially about batteries. He has a favorite brand.
Wait, what?
I buy the wrong batteries, apparently.
You bought the wrong batteries.
Okay, I kind of want to hear a little bit more about this.
No, you don't.
Oh, I think I do.
No, it was really simple. Everybody likes the Energizer Bunny. However, the batteries don't last that long.
Oh, brands. Oh, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, he was judgmental of my battery choice. But
I think I got an Energizer actually rechargeable. So.
Be careful, don't show him the leak because he'll have an issue.
No, rechargeable batteries are good.
Maybe I should go grab them and show them. Energizer. It just keeps going whenever you recharge them anyway.
Okay.
So rechargeable batteries are like your one exception to your rule?
Well, maybe. The thing is, I've spent a lot of time on sailboats where the GPS has to work and it's battery operated. And so I found over time that there is a particular kind of battery that tends to last a lot longer than the others. And when it's in the middle of the night and you don't know where you are and you can't see anything, you want to be able to turn your GPS on and it works. And that's where that came from.
Well, I just want to be able to power my mouse and not go anywhere but Dollar Tree because that's the only place I'm going.
Okay.
Oh, I've so purposely got this off track. Doing magic videos with batteries now, Jeremy says.
He's gonna make your favorite batteries disappear, Lee. Be careful.
We haven't named my favorites, so they're safe still.
Yeah. Jeremy knows.
What are your favorite?
I don't.
Product placement.
Oh, man.
Okay, with that tangent, I'm thrilled that we got this chance to talk, and
Yeah.
I hope that some people will see this and reach out to your community or our community or any community and start being part of a community, because we really need that right now.
Yeah, there's discuss about batteries like Christy has here. Duracell, Rayovac, which one? There's only so many brands.
Don't say it. Keep them guessing.
I already said it.
But nobody heard you because I was laughing at the same time.
That's the funny thing about me. I talk a lot of times, and people just don't hear me. Chrissy says it's something about the pitch of my voice. Mm-hmm. It doesn't carry well. And so even though I said it, I'm not going to say it again. So
it's just because
I'm going to have to go back and revisit the video.
Edit it out. We're going to keep this going for a while.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of getting down to the hour anyway, so they're just going to have to somehow get the audio and edit it themselves.
Yeah. Or you could just contact me and I'll tell you what kind of batteries to buy. Not that I'm opinionated.
Not at all.
No, not at all. We're not accusing you of anything here.
But I do have to say, when it comes to people, Lee is much more inclusive than batteries.
I hope so.
Oh, this is going to be the highlight of this show. Communities and also the choice of batteries versus both extremes going at each other. Where are you on this?
Well, stay energized. Well, I want to thank you for inviting us here today. I know we're about out of time.
Well, thank you as well.
It's really awesome what you're doing, and I'm very thankful that.
And it's great what you're doing as well, both of you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I think you're a great person, and it's great that you're bringing people together this way.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes. So for my final question, well, actually there's two, but really quickly, any final advice or words to anyone that wants to be able to help out in some way with the community?
I have a huge word to share about that. And the word is only 2 letters. It's do, D-O. What's really important is that you decide not to have great ideas every day and do nothing about them, but to have a mediocre idea even and do something about it.
Yeah.
That's my suggestion. Mm-hmm. I think that if you are not sure if you are making a difference, you are. And if your intention is to help people and you're not quite sure if they're hearing you or if you're really doing anything good, I would say if your intentions are good, you should know that you really are. There's a lot of times when we don't necessarily see the results of what it is that we're trying to do. But you really, keep doing it and don't quit just because you're not hearing people. Because like we said before, people are sometimes afraid to say things. So I would just say keep going.
So I guess my 3 words are battery brand superiority. Which one is it?
We can't tell you. Then we'd have to kill you.
Oh, I'll survive somehow.
So, do you have any upcoming events? More interviews coming up?
Actually, I still need to get June set, but for the next one is actually a good artist friend of mine, Diego Gonzalez, who does a lot of airbrushing. He currently moved to Texas and does all kinds of awesome airbrushing with like helmets, cars, T-shirts, and it's going to be a fun interview of just how he got started as an artist with the type of art that people don't always look positive on, since graffiti and all that. So
Sure.
Very cool.
That is so amazing to me. I love to watch railroad cars go by with all the graffiti on it. Some of those people are just amazingly talented. It's special. It's awesome.
Yeah, and maybe they graffiti whatever battery brand you prefer.
That wasn't very smooth.
I know. I tried.
But that was a good try. I have to get you that.
It was a good try. Yeah. Maybe like a silver star for effort.
Yeah, I'll mail you your silver star. By the way, I promise to mail people stars all the time, and I don't, but I still love you. And I do give Lee stickers all the time. So.
Yeah, I have stickers all over my laptop.
That's I always say I'm a reformed educator. So that's a former educator in me.
Yeah, it's fun. It's good.
So the last question, basically, and again, I want to thank you both for spending time to come on, is how do they contact you and just learn more about GreenCow PACE?
Well, we have a Facebook group, so we actually have a free membership, and it's Serving and Succeeding Business Leaders, Artists, Advocates, and Helpers. If you search that in Facebook, you will be able to find us, and there's a pinned message on the top about how you can meet with us, do an interview, and some really cool stuff for free. We also have a website, which is greencowpace.com. And at that website, you can find more about becoming a member of GreenCow, as well as our free and our members only events. So I really encourage you to find us in either of those places. You can also just send me a message and I'll be happy to connect you.
Yeah, and one more question, because, and no, it isn't about batteries, but
that's good.
Where did the name GreenCow come from, and what does PACE stand for?
Okay. Well, GreenCow, as you know, was created a few years ago as a co-working space. Mm-hmm. And we had a focus on everything green, environmentally friendly and all of that, and recycling and LED bulbs in the place. So that's where the green came from. The COW was is an acronym for the Collaborative Open Workspace at the time. Well, we don't have the physical space. I mean, we do have a place where we meet, but it's not the 9,000 square feet that we had before. And what happened was GreenCow was strange enough that people tended to remember it. And so that's how the name started, the GreenCow name.
And we like our cow, so we just decided.
Yeah, I noticed the cow painting in the background there with his little crown. Yeah.
So one of the artist friends of ours who, around a lot, Sherry Lemonnier, she painted this one day when we had a downtown arts festival, and she came to GreenCow and she painted the cow that day, and it was wonderful that she did that, and she's a wonderful person, and that's where the GreenCow came from.
And the green is not just a hint at your battery of choice, but but Energizer kind of has green too, so dang it.
Yeah.
It's just,
well, I'll give you a pass on that one.
Yeah, I've got it wrong. So again, if you enjoy this episode, we do have a website here, christophercasson.com/podcast, to learn more about it, as well as being able to appear listen to all the other episodes, which are also now available on the major platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, etc., and we're always waiting to include more platforms on top of that. I'm still working on that one, actually.
Cool.
So, and also, of course, on Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon with Thru Autistic Eyes Official. And so if you would love these episodes and want to give you support, you could become a patron on Patreon, and it helps basically pay the bills. So, and
Yeah, cool.
and just want to thank every single one of you that decided to join in and on the conversation or listening either now or later on. Again, thank you both so much for joining. This is Christopher D. Casson with Thru Autistic Eyes podcast, and cannot wait to get this going. Keep it going. So take care, everyone.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.